Nice seeing you again. As if implementing an ERP was not challenging enough in itself, in this video we shall discuss some of the challenges that lie after the implementation go-live date. In the immediate aftermath of an ERP implementation, companies very often face what is known as a performance dip. After spending countless human and economic resources in implementing a state-of-the-art information system, and in spite of careful planning, professional project management, thorough training and support, the company operates worse than before. Service levels decrease, customers complain, employees get stressed, metrics plunge. This is the time at which naysayers and, more generally, all those opposed to the project feel vindicated and call for its abandonment. In fact, this performance dip should come as no surprise, since major changes like this require an adjustment time before they can truly deliver their potential. Various minor, or not so minor, issues must be ironed out, and employees and other stakeholders must gain practice and thus proficiency in the new environment. Good project management, besides obviously trying to minimize the dip, should set the right expectations, warning in advance of the likelihood of a temporary performance dip to avoid a backlash. As mentioned while discussing coding-based customization, depending on the alteration of the original ERP software carried out during the project, the company may also face maintenance issues. Support maintenance contracts often conflict with modified software. Besides, as discussed, new versions or enhancements might not be compatible with the coding-based customization carried out, thus requiring costly recoding and retesting. An even more vexing question is, when is an ERP implementation completed? Companies normally implement only a limited subset of the existing ERP modules. If the implementation is successful, it is likely to be followed by subsequent extensions involving implementation of pre-existing or new modules. This is a key reason in explaining why some companies seem involved in semi-perpetual ERP implementation projects, whereby completion of the implementation of one module simply leads to embarking in the implementation of the next. Having reviewed the various facets of an ERP implementation, we can now go back and try to answer the question we posed to ourselves some time ago, namely, whose fault it is when the ERP prevents us from doing our work in the way we would otherwise do it. As you might recall, we described the imaginary situation in which, while negotiating with a customer a significant sale of a given product, we would like to meanwhile earmark or block the corresponding inventory to be able to guarantee the delivery time to our customer. But the ERP does not allow us to do so. Or that we cannot accept an order from a customer until a proposal has been prepared and formally approved. We then asked ourselves, whose fault is it? Limited information system functionality? Deficient implementation and adaptation project? Or is it a conscious decision by the management? Well, armed with our newly acquired understanding of the ERPs and their implementation projects, we can now do some educated guesses. First of all, we can clearly identify that the cause of our frustration is a disagreement with the implemented business process design, in facets such as no earmarking or stock reservation without firm orders, or orders can only be accepted after an approved proposal has been presented. It is more than likely that this reflects an explicit business decision by the management that actually wants to ensure that this is the way in which business is conducted, even though individual employees, such as ourselves, might disagree, at least under certain circumstances. This would then illustrate the ERP's role as a policeman, ensuring, on behalf of management, that business rules are in fact followed. It would also highlight how resentment at management information systems is often misdirected, since the limitations they seem to impose simply implement management decisions. It is also conceivable, though, that the management would agree with us that it would be best to countenance the alternative business process design, such as earmarking the stock. However, the ERP currently does not support it. In that case, the previous discussion should allow us to understand that we can find ourselves in two very different situations. If the modified procedure that we would like supported was included within the scope of the parameterization flexibility, then all that would be needed would be an appropriate reparameterization. If, on the other hand, this alternative was not contemplated, we would be facing a much more uphill battle in trying to convince management to embark in the cost and maintenance issues involved in a coding-based customization. Thus, to recap, in addition to generally being challenging and expensive, ERP implementation projects never seem to really end. New modules, new customizations, new versions or enhancements that often require refitting previous customizations lead to a nearly continuous stream of projects. As for the frustration ERPs frequently cause on users by straitjacketing and controlling the way in which they operate, their anger is frequently misdirected, as ERPs are merely the tool used by top management to impose the way of working they have decided. In other instances, these limitations can be truly attributed to a lack of functionality of the information system. In this case, understanding whether it can be solved by reparameterization or whether it would require coding-based customization can help to gauge the likelihood that management would approve the modification if requested to. Thank you for listening. Let us now move on to pose some questions to review the aforementioned concepts.